Dala! So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about African spirituality, and I'm going to talk to you about ritual for protection for children. In French we call it blindage. And basically, it's the type of protection that children receive when they're born or close to few months or few years after their birth. So in African spirituality, we come to this word, or not African spirituality, let me clear that up. Bamileke spirituality. And again, I do have to make these kind of huge disclaimers for those of you who are new, who don't know, so that you can clearly understand that I am Cameroonian. I'm from the Bamileke tribe, and in the Bamileke tribe, as in many other tribes, there is no fixed tradition. Tradition can vary from one village to another. Languages vary from one village to another within the tradition, the kingdom, the Bamileke kingdom. Within the Bamileke ethnic group, there are different languages that are being spoken, depending on which villages you come from. And the practice of spirituality varies. That means there's things that may be different from one village to another, from one family to another within the same village. So you see how varied and diverse it can be. So my vision is just the perspective from my family, from my own experience, and from what I know. I cannot speak for all of the Bamilekes out there, okay? Not even for my cousins, you know? I can only speak for my own path and the own thing that I know about my own spirituality, and some of it coming from my families, so forth and so on. And if you go to Cameroon, spirituality is not the same. This is not this big jigsaw puzzle or things that mesh up together. Spirituality, even in my country, is based on where you are. There are things that you are going to be doing in this particular environment because they have specific plants, because there are specific energies that are there, that are going to be completely different if you are in a different environment with different plants, different animals, and different circumstances. Cameroon has beaches, we have mountains, we have the rainforest, we have the desert. So it is sometimes referred to as Little Africa because we have all of this variety. And with that come a variety of practices, of traditions, of custom, of wisdom. And I love it too. I embrace it. I think this is what makes the strength of our nation, the diversity in our ethnic groups, the diversity in our cultures, and our capacity to live all together as one nation and beyond, because we are all part of the same community, which is the human race. But to get down to that now, it is often said that each tribe has some specificities, and I think that's the topic for another video, in terms of like sometimes we say that specific tribes have specific gifts, yeah, that will be for another video. But because each tribe has specific gifts, and within each tribe there's always traditional practitioners. And those practitioners have nothing to do with the modern days practitioner of people who proclaim themselves to be that way, or people who decide that they want to, learn about something and start practicing it and offering services. That have nothing to do with that. When we're talking about protection rituals for children, this is not done by your new guru online. Usually, it's practitioners within your own community, practitioners who've worked with your parents, your grandparents, 4 or 5 generations sometimes, who are well established and who have a specific expertise. So oftentimes you won't find somebody who does everything. This is why sometimes it is a warning. People tell you, no, everybody doesn't do everything. If you hear somebody telling you, no matter what is your problem, I can find a solution, there may be some red flag there. Because a lot of practitioners will tell you that there are things that they cannot do, there are things that they don't do or they don't touch. And most of them do have a specific expertise. They are known for something that's specific. And sometimes it's even specific in terms of the ethnic group you come from. Like for us, we'll say, for example, if somebody who's from the Bassa tribe does something to you, do some working on you, you have to find another Bassa practitioner. You have to go back to that specific ethnic group to be able to get rid of that efficiently. Not that you can find someone else who's going to do some work and you feel a little bit better, but that if you want to get rid of it completely, efficiently, you have to go back there. So that already puts in perspective the fact that you can see, somebody who's coming from, I don't know, from Alaska, saying that they're practicing, Bamileke traditions, that will raise a red flag. because they're not from the environment, they're not in the environment, and they're not using what's in their environment. That's which is really important, because the variation on the tradition and the custom and the practices depends on the environment. When somebody moves around from the same tribe, but they go to a different place, they may find plants that they've never seen before. They may find energies or find situations that they've never encountered before, and twist their own practice around that to integrate that. So it morphs, it's differentiate. However, the reason why people go to them is because they value the expertise, they value the experience, and those are people who've proven themselves time and time again. Okay, this is not the newbie who decides, hey, I want to start to indulge in this thing. No, this is somebody who's received his knowledge from his parents, his great parents, has been in his family, in his lineage, or he has lived with somebody who was a practitioner since being a child. Oftentimes it is from the bloodline and the lineage, more of the time. Sometimes it is like the best friend of the child, of the son, who's being initiated and who's being transferred that knowledge, but it's always somebody who's close, who's a practitioner himself or herself. Okay, it's not somebody who just read books somewhere and just proclaim themselves. No, that is really not how it works. It's really the community recognize you, and sometimes it may start with just your family members recognizing you, and then the friends of their family members, and then the community at large. But it comes to the fact that people held you to that higher standard. You don't proclaim yourself. The acknowledgement and the recognition comes from the people, comes from the community. And this is why these people, the practitioners, they don't move from town to town. They're settled at one spot, one space. You know where you can find them tomorrow, 10 years later, 30 years later, 3 generations down the line, they are still there, and their successor is still there as well. So those are just pointers for you if you ever go back home and you start looking at practitioners to do specific ritual for protection for children, because you don't mess with that. Children are the most vulnerable because it's just born, and so that's why the person who does that work is very important. It has to be someone who's trusted and someone who actually knows what they're doing. And that's why I say this is not like the newbie thing where you've seen some cool videos and you think that you can go and do this on your own child, because you don't know what you're doing. And the other thing is that when you're born, as I mentioned in other videos, in my tribe, we don't have a first name. I do have a first name just because it's like the modern trend. You know, with colonization, people get themselves first name. I couldn't have a passport if I didn't have a first name, so you know, you have to add that in to be able to travel abroad. But when I go back to my village, nobody knows my first name. Nobody cares about my first name. My first name doesn't mean much. Okay, the name that I have is what they call my village name, and that's the name that matters. That's the name that wasn't chosen by my parents per se. It's the name that was coming back, of the ancestor that's coming back, and that's when the time when I decided to come back to have that name. That name has a specific signification, and that name is tied to a specific ancestor that had a specific path in life, that had a specific behavior in life, which is going to influence me. So that's why it's very important to have that village name, if you like. And when I go to the village, if I go back to see this practitioner, he's not going to call me by my first name. I will announce my village name. He will know whose family I'm from, which lineage it is, etc., etc. And that's when you can tell it is actually a practitioner that's ingrained in the community, because you'll be able to pinpoint what is your lineage, because it's been that long in the community. And that's how you can trust this person, because they've been doing work for your family and other families around. This is not somebody who wants to make quick money and just jump onto the next city or whatever. This is somebody who's serving the community from generation on, and they're still there. I mean, you just have to wear off. That's why most people who live in the village and stay in the village see that they are trust people. We don't have that much issue of people who pretend and all these different things, because in the village, everybody knows everybody. You can basically say where you come from, and people will know who you are, who are your parents, and sometimes you don't even know them, but they will be able to tell you who are your parents, who are your grandparents, and what have you. Which is great, because if you ever get lost, everybody can put you back to your home and to your house. Okay, this being said, so basically what the ritual is that when you're born, your parents or your grandparents, whichever, will bring you to the practitioner. The practitioner will do this ritual of protection. When you come into the world, you come in with already you come in under certain specific stars, under a certain moment, you come in with your own protection. The name that you have is also a protection, specific ancestors and what you have you. And this ritual is just adding on to this protection. It's really adding on to that. And this is why sometimes people may try to do work on you spiritually and you don't even need to be bothered because it's going to backfire right at them. This is why sometimes when you go to see practitioners, they will say, you know, this person, I cannot do work on them. I've looked at it, I cannot touch this person. If you want to touch it, you will regret it. And that's because they have had this ritual done from birth or shortly after birth when they were children. And back in the days, it used to be that they will mark the child with a specific symbol just to warn people, just to let you know, don't mess with this particular person, don't do it. And so people will be warned off just by looking at you. They will know that, okay, this is not somebody I can mess with, so I'll just move on to the next person. And back then, a lot of people were doing that, so there weren't that many people to mess with to begin with. But nowadays, less and less people are doing that, and obviously a lot of people started, you know, venturing to spirituality and trying to be newbies and apprentice sorcerers and what have you, and there's a lot of mess going on, but those practitioners are still there. And I think for my generation of children who received that, because I received my blindness when I was a child, for us, I know for a fact in my own experience that there are times where people will try to do certain things and I wouldn't even be bothered. I will be told later on, or I will be shown later on, or sometimes I even know that somebody is trying to do some rituals to get something out of me or to try to do something like that. I'll see it in a dream, and you know, it's just like information for you to know, and I just identify the person. I just know what to do, how to, you know, deal with them. But I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do, you know, reverse casting or whatever, all those different things that I see oftentimes on YouTube being done. I don't have to worry about that. So that's what it is. So if you ever heard of a protection ritual, that's what it is. If you are from an African country, you can let me know below if you have the same in your own country or if you partake in that. So thank you for having me with me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
La 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 la.